Previously on a Scout Method podcast. You're just like, all right, here's what we do. Are you taking any supplements at all? And I'm just like, well, I cut out half of the supplements. And he was just like, so are you taking creatine? I'm like, yes, I've been taking it for 10 years. Yeah. He was just like, stop that. I'm like, not my creatine. I was look. I turned into a Dragon Ball Z character real quick. I was like, what? Told him this. Think about it this way: we're called on to love our enemies. How do you do that if you don't like them, right? And it's just like, so we wouldn't be called on to love our enemies if it was purely based on whether we like them or not. We're actually called to actively work towards and hope for, pray for the benefit, the good of our enemies. That's a hard thing to do. But you can't do it just by falling into it. You can't do it by, accident, right? You have to actively make the decision to love your enemy, which you have to actively make the decision to love. And then it's just like, and it's interesting, and it can't be on any condition. It can't have any condition at all whatsoever, right? And that's the funny thing. It's just like, because think about it, we only know how to love because God loved us. And God loved us unconditionally. He loves us unconditionally. Now, the part that a lot of people seem to get hung up on concerning that is, well, if he loved me unconditionally, I could be who I want to be, and he would accept me. That doesn't necessarily bear out to be true, right? Unconditional love doesn't necessarily mean unconditional acceptance. All right. Welcome to episode number 26, Muscle in the Light. All right, we're going to talk about, in this episode, all about red light therapy. So, I went over a little bit of the other health items, the other health things, the other health stuff, right? I did it. It was a 2-episode or 2 podcast episode topic, right? So I talked about infrared sauna, or sauna in general, right? I talked about cold plunging or cryotherapy. I talked about a hyperbaric oxygen chamber. And I think the last one I talked about was red light therapy, right? And I know I wanted to, and I think I said this then, that I wanted to dig into the red light therapy just a little bit more, because there is a lot of information out there concerning it, and it seems to be all the hotness right now. So we're going to dig into red light therapy. What is it? What does it really do? Is it a crock? Is it legit? We'll go over things like that. But to recap a little bit, the last episode, the previous episode, was the everything episode. And I just threw a whole bunch of stuff together that was just kind of on my mind. So I kind of was just winging it a little bit, right? In that episode, I talked about my, I guess my situation, my health, that's improving and that's good now, right? But at the point in time, it wasn't that great. Or there were some issues, rather. Let me put it that way. And I spoke about how I had to stop taking creatine. Now, that I didn't think was going to cause much, but it caused kind of a stir, right? Because then another thing that's all the hotness right now is creatine. And it's just like, these things go in cycles. These things go in cycles. Creatine has been out for decades. In one moment, it was like thought to be of a steroid, and then it's like, oh no, it's actually good for you. So people start taking it. And then more and more studies come out, and then they keep going about, and it's just like, okay, now everybody wants to take it. Now you have your grandma taking it. And that's cool. That's cool. My point is creatine is great, and I will continue to say that creatine is great for you, generally speaking. All right, it is generally speaking, it's a good supplement. It's just not good for me personally. And that's not because of I just don't like it. No, I've taken creatine for the majority of 10 years. I just can't take it anymore, right? There were some issues that I had, underlying issues caused by something else that basically forced me to stop taking it, because at that point, the creatine wasn't really helping me out as much. It was becoming more of a burden and more of a strain on my kidneys. And I'm pretty particular about, as anybody would be, I guess, right? I don't know if I'm that different in that respect, but I'm pretty particular about my kidney health, right? Especially given that I'm black, and apparently, and I still don't know if I buy this, but apparently kidney issues, kidney disease, and kidney things, and all types of kidney stuff is very prevalent amongst black people. In America, at least, from what I understand. So, creatine is great, but I just can't take it anymore. I personally can't do it anymore, or I can't supplement with creatine anymore. And it sounds like I'm trying to cope a little bit, and it's like, oh, my creatine, why? I mean, it's kind of salty, but at the same time, I don't have to spend any additional dollars on this supplement. So, kind of a win, right? But also in that episode, I talked about, and this is another thing that kind of unexpectedly caused a little bit of a stir. And I was talking about, it stemmed from a conversation that I had with my son about love. And specifically, the comment that I said was we're called on to love our enemies. And it's not just love your neighbor, love your enemy as well. And man, the amount of private messages I got because of that alone. And I'm like, listen, I'm not saying anything that's completely unknown to, at least to the Christian, right? That is one of the hallmarks of Christianity. One of the hallmarks of Christianity is the fact that Christians are called on to love their enemies, love everyone. Every single person is born and is here and created in the image of God. Therefore, they are due a certain level of respect and a certain level of dignity. Whether you like them or not, that's irrelevant at this point. You're still called on to love them. And what is love then, right? And this is what I was breaking down. It's you're working towards, hoping for, praying for, sometimes sacrificing for the good or the benefit of someone else, right? And in this instance, you're praying for, hoping for, working towards, sometimes sacrificing for the good or the benefit of your enemy. And that's so crazy. And look. I straight up said, that ain't easy. That is not easy. It's not easy at all. But none of this is. All right? So, that's all I'm going to say on that, because I said what I needed to say. I said what I said, right? But I did not expect those about all the topics and all the things I talked about. Those are the two clips, I guess, that people pulled from the most and was just the creatine one I kind of understand, because it's just there are a lot of doctors out there that'll say, well, your creatinine levels are high, so you shouldn't be taking creatine. And I understand that. But with me, in my case, and I got to go back to just shade this in a little bit more. In my case, it was more than just the creatinine levels, right? Creatinine levels were high, but they shouldn't have been that high, right? And there were other functional things that were not happening that should absolutely be happening, and it appeared in my blood. So it's just I get you, I get it. It was more than a handful of people said that. It was probably just a doctor who doesn't know, or I've had issues prior to that, and the creatine supplementation is exacerbating those issues. Anyway, I'm Coach Evan. This is Say Cheese and Lift Studio, and you're listening to the Scout Method Podcast, your one-stop shop for not only physical fitness, but mental fitness, emotional fitness, and spiritual fitness. All right, let's get to this episode here. Red light therapy, up on deck. So red light therapy, what is it, right? Red light therapy is a non-invasive treatment of sorts, right? So it's non-invasive. It's a treatment that uses low-level red light and infrared light to essentially promote cellular regeneration, cellular health, and rejuvenation, right? I like using all these words, right? But that's what it does. Like, you can get it from a number of different devices, right? Like, they have panels. You can stand up in front of the panels and absorb, like, shine the light on you, right? They have little like masks that you put on, and they do the red light from there. They have hats. They have little mats. They have like beds that look like tanning beds, but they're like red light therapy beds. Those are pretty cool. They even have like little pens, which I don't know. Like, that's an interesting one, but like, I guess to spot treat, I don't know. But they have pens out there as well. And basically what it does is this low level wavelength red light and infrared light, it basically powers up or charges up your mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of the cell, right? And it causes the mitochondria to produce more ATP. Now, that's not energy in and of itself. That's actually the transporter of energy, but ultimately the end result is cellular regeneration, cellular rejuvenate, and and cellular repair. Like, it's super good for the cells. And the thing about it is like, I'm thinking about it, when I mentioned all of the other health things, right? Like, I mentioned sauna, and sauna's really, really good. There's the wet or dry sauna. The thing is, like, all of these others, for instance, sauna causes a biological response, right? Like, it causes you to sweat, causes you to release these heat shock proteins, things like that, right? And it's simply done by warming up your core body temperature. On the opposite end, the cold plunge or the cryotherapy, that stuff causes you to lower your core body temperature, restrict the blood vessels and all that fun stuff. I mean, it's good for, inflammation, blah, 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 blah. But that's another biological response. Same thing with hyperbaric oxygen chamber, right? You're breathing in pure oxygen in a pressurized way. It's promoting your body to do, different things. All these biological responses, though, right? Now, granted, red light therapy it also causes some biological responses, but it starts it at the cellular level, and that's what separates it from the other modalities here. So let's start at the beginning, the very beginning. Before there was red light therapy, there was something called photobiomodulation. Now, that's a long behind word, but essentially, it's still the umbrella that red light therapy falls under. And those two terms are used interchangeably. They probably shouldn't be, but whatever, right? Like, it's red light therapy is a form of photobiomodulation, right? Now, the first documented practice or first documented occasion of using photobiomodulation, or PBM, because I got to say that for sure. I got to say PBM because I'm going to mess this word up eventually. So the first documented use of PBM was in 1895. That's a long time ago. And then you go a few years later, maybe more than a few, maybe like 8 years later, you get to like 1903, okay? In 1903, there's this one gentleman, and I gotta bring up his name because I don't want to leave y'all hanging here. 1903, a gentleman by the name of Niels Ryberg Finsen won the Nobel Prize for his research on using what? Red light to treat skin conditions. That's in 1903. Right? And one of them was like tuberculosis of the skin. Listen, if there's something that you absolutely do not want to look up, take my word for this one. You do not want to look up tuberculosis of the skin. It is nasty. No, I regret looking it up, but I have to do because that's what I do, and that's the way my brain works. Do I regret it? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Just take my word for it. Tuberculosis of the skin was nasty. Anyway, what he did was he opened up the doorway for the use of light therapies and the legitimacy of using light as a therapy, as a therapeutic agent, right? So we're talking about PBM, photobiomodulation, right? And at times this, so there are other forms of photobiomodulation, right? Other than just red light therapy, right? Did you know there's also blue light therapy? And that's really good for the skin, right? Did you also know that there's green light therapy? Now, those haven't been studied as much. Blue light therapy actually has a few studies backing it. Green light therapy, not as many, but there are some studies that point that green light therapy is also a legitimate thing. So photobiomodulation is 100% legitimate. There's just a bunch of things that fall under that umbrella. Now, I got to give you a little bit of a warning, a little bit of a not a public service announcement. I don't know what those, like, a warning label of some sort, whatever. It has to be the proper wavelength of light. You can't just you can't just start going up somewhere and just say like, hey, I'm going to take this old red light bulb that I have here, and I'm going to get some red light therapy. No, it has to be a particular wavelength. It has to be, I think it was 600 to 650 nanometers or 800 to 850 nanometers. Anywhere in between those ranges, that's where you're hitting the sweet spot. And that's what's been clinically studied, right? So you're not just getting Christmas lights and turning them up real bright and just sitting under them, okay? There's some legitimacy to the proper wavelengths that you need to use for that one. I just have a few people in mind when I'm thinking about this, right? It's just like, oh, well, bet I'm just going to go get me some red lights from Home Depot. So please don't do that. There's and also as a consumer notice, right? Just make sure that the panels that you get, the mask that you get, the hat, the mat, whatever it may be, it shows it has those wavelengths. Like, you have to have that listed on there. And if it doesn't have it listed on there, most likely it doesn't give you the proper wavelengths that are good for actual cellular regeneration and repair. Again, red light therapy at specific wavelengths is where it's at, right? 600 to 650 nanometers or 800 to 850 nanometers, right? So the 800 to 850 nanometers is the infrared, and the 600 to 650 is the low frequency or low level red light, okay? That's important here. That's very important for red light therapy in and of itself, okay? Also to keep in mind, it's perfectly safe, right? Red light therapy does not emit harmful ultraviolet rays or anything like that. So it's not the same as going outside and getting in the sun and burning your skin off, right? It's not the same thing. And it also doesn't generate any excessive heat inside or out, right? So keep those things in mind. Now, where does the magic actually happen though, right? Like, because you can imagine at this point its uses are plentiful. You could use this red light therapy for so many different things, and it's perfect for skin rejuvenation, wound healing, inflammation reduction, pain relief, and muscle recovery. And those are some of the things, right? There are some studies that have started to show that is good for your vision as well. I don't know if those have all kind of bore out to be true, but they're studying it, right? They're bringing more to the table concerning red light therapy and its uses, right? So we're going to go over each of these one by one, and there's a certain pathway that all of this stuff happens, right? The skin rejuvenation, wound healing, inflammation reduction, pain relief, muscle recovery. There's a way that this happens, and it kind of comes through 5 different additional pathways, I guess, right? So the first one is enhanced mitochondrial function, okay? So what it does, what red light therapy does, is it activates this particular enzyme called cytochrome C oxidase. It's an essential enzyme, and it leads to increased ATP production, right? So what is what I said earlier, all right? And that leads to increased cellular energy, right? That energy is critical in daily functions, but is also critical in muscle repair and regeneration, right? So red light therapy could possibly be the bodybuilder's dream. I'm being a little bit dramatic on that one, but it's good for you, right? It's good for recovery. It's good for muscle repair. And I personally can attest to that, right? I've done red light therapy for a while now, and I've seen some pretty decent results. Not just like, I have beautiful glowing skin. No, it's I've been less sore in general when I've had a consistent red light therapy routine. See, the thing about, and this is kind of like a little caveat here, the thing about red light therapy is you also want to make sure, like anything, well, let me put it, not anything, but a lot of the things that I mention here on the pod, or a lot of things that I suggest, are for longevity. They're for long-term things. I try not to put up any quick fixes, right? So red light therapy isn't necessarily a quick fix. It's with repeated doses, something that can lead to longevity, better health overall for the long term, okay? So what it does, it's basically that energy, it increases ATP production, which leads to increased cellular energy. And the energy is critical in daily functions, in muscle repair and regeneration. But it also opens up the pathway for you to be able to heal from actual physical wounds and to heal from sickness at a faster rate. So think about when look, the boys just got over some type of virus. I don't know what it was. I don't even know where they got. I have my ideas of where they got it. But anyway, the oldest had the stomach bug and the youngest had a cold, and they're on the upswing. They're doing good, right? But it's just like they were so wiped out afterwards. Red light therapy is one of those things that could help with rebounding from sickness because it's supercharging your cells again, right? Now, I don't know if there are any studies that are done they say it's safe for kids. And I'm sure, like, if you lower it, right, and give them maybe like 5 to 10 minutes, you can introduce your kids to something like that. I don't think there's an issue with that. But also, if you're a parent, use your own discretion, right? I'm not saying that you have to do it. But there's also I'm not exactly sure how many studies there have been done on red light therapy after sickness. But you can kind of draw the lines here. You can draw the intelligent conclusions that, well, if it comes down to energy at the cell and you're still trying to recover, if you could recover from a heavy, intense exercise a little bit better, then ideally you would be able to recover from sickness a little bit better. But, again, there aren't any studies to back that up. At least as far as I've seen, if you know of them, send them my way, because I would definitely, eat that up. But also what red light therapy does, it mitigates the inflammatory response and oxidative stress. Now, we gotta take a quick little break with the oxidative stress. It's like another little public service announcement, right? Oxidative stress is hyper destructive, right? Oxidative stress essentially is the kind of stress that happens through like environmental factors or through diet and lifestyle factors sometimes through normal biological processes. But what happens is your body releases these free radicals. These free radicals are molecules that are hyper destructive. So what they do is they damage cells, they damage proteins, and they damage DNA. They mess up your dunna. So it's just like these free radicals are hyper destructive. And what red light therapy can do is to mitigate the effects of, one, the inflammatory response, which sometimes is not all bad, but two, mitigate the amount of oxidative stress you're putting on your body, which you absolutely want to do on a consistent basis, right? Because too much oxidative stress breaks down the cell. And if you have cellular breakdown, well, you're more likely to have disease. You're more likely to have genetic issues and pass those on, which I thought was very interesting. But yeah, especially from like it accelerates. So it does three things really, right? So it accelerates aging as well, right? And you can imagine that. So it's breaking down the cells in your skin, right? It's genetic breakdown. So it's breaking down your DNA. It's muscular breakdown. It's breaking down your muscles, muscle catabolism. So it's like all of these bad things, right? Essentially what it's doing is oxidative stress brings you closer to death. Continuing. Red light therapy also can alleviate muscle soreness, right? And kind of delved into that a little bit, but it promotes quicker recovery, meaning that it promotes that. So like, when you get the DOMS and, everybody hates the DOMS, myself included. It's just like, oh, DOMS, for those of you who don't know, delayed onset muscle soreness, right? I never understood why they had like such a technical term for just being sore, but like it's that usually that second day after a workout, a pretty decent one, where you're just like, and you're grabbing on the towel racks just to sit down on the toilet. But anyway, let me get back on track. I need to look at my notes. Let me get back on track. It alleviates muscle soreness and promotes quicker recovery. Yes, that's where I am. And it promotes pain relief, especially for chronic conditions like arthritis, right? And it also promotes a quicker recovery, pain relief from chronic exercise. Not saying that is a bad thing. It's just if you exercise more than 4 times a week or 4 times a week or something like that, and it doesn't matter, you don't have to do weightlifting all the time. But if you do that, well, that's chronic exercise, right? So red light therapy helps alleviate the pain that's associated with those things, right? It also promotes blood flow, bringing more oxygen to where it needs to go. Now, I did a whole episode on improving circulation, improving blood flow. I'll have to put it in the links or have to link it up or put it in the show notes or whatever it may be. But that episode is the one you want to listen to when it comes to blood flow and circulation, why it's good, why you need it, and so on and so forth. Either way, red light therapy promotes good circulation, okay? Then it also has been shown to reduce certain muscle damage markers, such as creatine kinase and lactate levels, which also lower pain levels over time. So, it basically allows you, again, this is another way of saying it allows you to recover from exercise even better, right? So it also is good as it's good for after workout, but it's also good for a pre-workout. So if you did, let's just say, a 15-minute red light therapy session before your workout, there are studies that show that it acts as almost like a precondition to your muscles. It enhances your endurance and it staves off fatigue for just a little bit longer. So it increases general output. It pretty much does the same thing. Well, okay, and I'm probably going to get flamed for this, but it pretty much does the same thing that all your other supplements do. I'm going to keep going on. But lastly, red light therapy can stimulate collagen production. And this is how you lead to skin rejuvenation, reduction of wrinkles, wound repair. Like if you have scars or things like that, those things kind of go away with red light therapy, right? What it does is it's pretty much great for your skin, right? Red light therapy and blue light therapy is great for your skin, but I'm just talking about red light therapy here. It's great for your skin. It's great for your skin structure, elasticity, and smoothness. So it's kind of like an anti-aging type of thing, right? Just from a physical looks perspective. And that's, I'm just giving you a little bit of what red light therapy can do, right? There's also some studies that show that red light therapy can increase testosterone production. Now, in order for that to happen, though, you got to shine the light where the light doesn't usually shine. And I'm not entirely sure that is a I'm not sure if that's actual science or if that's pseudoscience. So I'm kind of listing that on some potential benefits that haven't been proven out yet. And that's definitely one of them. It could increase testosterone production because if you can shine the light in certain areas where testosterone is produced, and those cells that are responsible for producing the testosterone are energized and repaired and rejuvenated, then it stands to reason that production becomes more efficient and levels could go up. Again, I have enough studies to say that that's 100% true. But you can draw the pathway. So this is a little bit of pseudoscience here, right? Okay, and I'll fully cop to that. But it'd be great if it really did. It'd be great if that's true, right? And again, we don't know if it's not true. So that's another benefit of red light therapy. And I mentioned before that it could help with vision because you're rejuvenating the cells in your eyes. Now, you're not looking directly at it. I believe you're closing your eyes and just shining your face anyway. I don't know if that's 100% study supported either or science supported either, so I'm putting it in the pseudoscience category. And I mean, there's a couple other things, and they're really not that major, right? Like, it's also good, like, because think about it, if it's good for your skin, then it's good for acne as well, right? It's good for getting rid of acne. But a lot of times, especially if it's like for like topical reasons and all that fun stuff. But if it's for, you're eating a terrible diet, then that's a different situation, right? Like, just stop eating crap food. But anyway, that kind of falls in that category as well. But listen, here's this is red light therapy is good for you. It's safe. Just make sure that you highlight the wavelengths of red light and infrared light you're using. Make sure you know what that is. Make sure whatever product you're using has that detailed, because again, if it doesn't, chances are it's not using the right ones. So there you have it, okay? Red light therapy. Go ahead, go get some red light therapy. Shine it wherever you want to shine it. Shine it wherever you want to shine it. But let me know. Let me know if you do red light therapy. Let me know the results, if any, right? Let me know what's going on. What's your experience with red light therapy? In the meantime, I'm going to go get me some red light therapy in the recovery room that I told you about last episode. Well, there you have it, folks. That's episode number 26. Done. In the books. We moving. We chugging. And red light therapy, I'm telling you, it's pretty decent. It's pretty decent. And in fact, nothing is going to beat my sauna to me. But red light therapy is getting very, very close, especially with the newer studies that are coming out now, right? So it's simple to do. You just stand there, you stretch, you're stretching, in between a couple panels or whatever it may be. But get your red light in, and let me know how it goes. I'm curious how many people actually do it, and how many people are, pumping it up as something and have never done it. But rest assured, I've done it, and I've done it a lot. But I'm not going to stay here too long, right? Listen, I'm Coach Evan. This is Say Cheese and Lift Studio, and you're listening to, you just got finished listening to the Scout Method Podcast, your one-stop shop for not only physical fitness, but mental fitness, emotional fitness, and spiritual fitness. Episode 27 is coming up. Hope to see y'all there.